Welcome back to this week's pitching preview. I'm Jason Gilbo here at Fantasy Baseball Cafe, taking a look at some crunch time pitching here. We're winding down with the first week in September, looking for those playoff matchups. It's gotta be the right time to get those streamers right, and I got a pretty good list here for this week. Unfortunately, two starters is a little rough outside of the aces, leaving kind of the scraps for the rest of the streamers to work with. Um, it's just not a lot to go this week. I really have zip for streamers for guys making two starts. It's a lot of one and done guys, which I'll talk about here in the streamer chart. But I'll talk about Matt Harvey right now because he was scheduled for two starts this week, but the Mets had that six-man rotation, which bumped him back. He's got a 180 inning limit this season, and he's at 166 right now. It's been all over the news, all over ESPN. Now he's going to pitch in the playoffs if the Mets make it. But the Nationals are pretty close behind. But likely you're probably going to miss out on Harvey for the last 2 weeks of the season, whether that means anything or not to you, depending on how deep your league runs. But given a six-man rotation with the Mets, it probably would have set you back a little bit anyway. So be prepared to get rid of him if you're in a redraft and pick someone else up if you haven't already. So skipping right ahead, we're looking at some streamers. Monday, a little iffy. You got Labor Day, got some day games in, a lot of day games in. But Trevor Bauer, been up and down this season. Been unreliable, so a lot of people have dropped him. But we're looking at a pretty good matchup. He faces the White Sox, who's faced him 4 times this season. He struggled once in his last start, but the K's were there. But the other 3 times, he dominated them. They only ranked 23rd in weighted runs created plus. They got a nice 20.1% strikeout rate. Bauer's inconsistent, but he has thrown some big lines. I think if you're chasing innings, you need some upside coming into the final stretch here. You're going to roll with Bauer. If you're in some shallow leagues, other guys are Ian Kennedy, but Ian Kennedy's been on a real roll. Same with Mike Fiers. Those guys have been pretty highly grabbed in the last couple of weeks. But if you're in shallow leagues, they may still be out there. So you can definitely stream them. Looking at Tuesday, Aaron Nola, he's going to get a Braves offense that ranks 29th in WRC plus against right-handed pitching. Nola 5-2 on the season. His only real blow-up has come in his last start against the Mets, which caused the ERA to jump a little bit. He's been pretty decent this season. He's one of the guys for the future out there in Philly. So I like him against this offense there. We're keeping a look on the shallow end here. Edison Volquez, Taylor Youngman, Raisel Iglesias, who's been dominant, especially in the strikeout department. Other names to throw out in the shallow leagues, but because they've all been pitching so well outside of Volquez, people have kind of caught on. So that's kind of what we're dealing with this week, but those are some names to go. Wednesday, Julio Teheran. I've said he's been overrated. I've never been a fan. I've called to drop him quite a bit this season. But, he's taking on the Phillies, so I like him there if he's out there, which a lot of people gave up on him, in the middle of the season, as deservingly so, because struggles against lefties, gives up a ton of homers, only really struggles on the road, and been average at best at home. Even though he's on the road, I like him still facing the Phillies. So Chris Medlin, your lower end option, a little risky, starts against the Twins, who not so good against right-handed pitching. Medlin, he's been pretty good since coming back to the rotation, but really had a tough time last time out. Martin Perez, gets a mediocre A's offense. Perez has been nothing special, but he's also not given up more than 3 runs since July 28th. So, you know what you're going to get. I think 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 5 Ks, and a possible win. So not bad there. Thursday, looking at another Rangers pitcher, Derek Holland. Has been excellent this season, allowing 7 earned runs in his 4 starts since coming off the DL. He's been shelved for a while. 4 games or in a start, he faced the Toronto Blue Jays, gave up 4 runs. We kind of give him a pass, as I would give any pitcher a pass for facing that lineup as a lefty. He's got a 7.4 K through 9. Seattle ranks in the middle of the league in offense against southpaws. They have a hefty 22.5% strikeout rate. And looking at Friday, Big Bartolo Colon has not allowed an earned run in his last 3 starts, and he's went 7 innings, 8 innings, and 9 innings in those games. He's going to face the Braves offense, who I'm already picking on once this week. I like him. If he's out there, he probably is. People don't believe it, but three nice starts in a row. Could be the extra day's rest, whatever. But Cologne's pitching pretty well, and he's got a great matchup. And looking at Friday for your low-end pitching option outside of Cologne, Jake Peavy is going to face the Padres at home. He showed some solid stuff, every now and then, but also has the blow-up risk. But it's kind of minimal facing an offense like San Diego's. Saturday, Dan Herron for the Cubbies is going to face the Phillies. Should be a quality start there and a pretty solid win, given the Cubs offense facing a Phillies pitcher. Steven Matz, part of that six-man rotation I was talking about, is going to get the Braves. Braves strikeout rate jumps up against Southpaws. Matz, still kind of up in the air because he left a game with a blister. So we'll see where he's at in the middle of the week, but that's where he lines up now. He left the game today with the blister, but 6 strikeouts, allowing 2 earned. Didn't grab the win, unfortunately, but he was cruising along pretty well. Sunday, all of a sudden the Red Sox pitching has found their stuff. Joe Kelly's got 7 or 8 straight wins. Wade Miley's pitching up and down, but been pretty decent. And Rick Porcello's 2 great starts since coming off the DL, racking up 18 strikeouts, and has only allowed 1 earned in those 2 starts. He's going to face the Rays, who rank 25th in offense against right-handed pitching, so you got to like the matchup there. John Neese is going to get your lefty matchup against the Braves, picking on them quite a bit. In shallow leagues, I'm going to like Jason Hamill against the Phillies, who's been kind of trickling down here as the season's worn on. Just some notes for this week and kind of going forward for the rest of September. The Mets, the Yankees, both on 6-man rotations, essentially killing 2-start weeks. Although Harvey going down with the innings limit, may create a DeGrom 2-week start if we're lucky. It's just going to be whoever falls on, if with their games and stuff. Teams are starting to slow innings for young players like Carlos Rodon. I've seen basically the entire Cardinals staff, like Michael Wacha, Lance Lynn, Carlos Martinez are all being slowed down a little bit, especially Martinez. And we could also see Marcus Stroman back this weekend, looking at Saturday's start. So that's good news there for us and the Blue Jays. Wrapping up with the injury report, still some big names out there. Kind of crunch time here in September, so we want those guys to get back and get some starts under them. Carlos Carrasco, due back, should be pitching on Tuesday. His teammate Corey Kluber, however, likely to miss 2 starts with the hamstring issue. Matt Schumacher expected to miss a start this week, but could possibly pitch later because he's scheduled to be a 2-start pitcher, but not sure there. Marlins manager said Jose Fernandez, ready to go, should join the rotation next week, which is good news if you're counting on him for those last 2 weeks of the season, because he should be fresh and ready to go. Steven Strasburg really pitched well off the DL, but had the back issue left after a pretty poor outing. He's expected to pitch later on this week if everything goes well. So a lot of guys coming back. AJ Burnett threw 71 pitches. Expected to grab a rehab start before joining the rotation. And, that's good news because Burnett's been very solid, pitches in that big ballpark out in PNC. He's a guy who was a nice waiver wire ad who really contributed for a lot of owners this season. So a lot of players returning for the playoff stretch, so a lot of good news there. Wrapping up here, it's been a pretty odd week, especially with the 2 starts. Labor Day kind of throws a funk into it, got some interleague games. But you should be set with some pretty solid streamers for week 22.